it was an interesting time to try and publish some thinking on mergers and acquisitions. This came up almost 2 years ago as part of a series that we're doing on the future of business. And it seemed like a good idea at the time. Of course, who knew that credit markets would crash and everything else in the M&A business would change? There are 5 enduring trends that even as we looked at all of the madness going on in the world now, we said they were here before and we believe they will be enduring trends after. The trend for companies to get bigger and bigger, but the difference to the past is to be more coherent, to have what we would call relevant scale rather than just size. A trend toward velocity and impatience. Everything in our life is getting faster and less patient, which is of course the antithesis of good merger and deal making and good integration planning. Non-traditional competitors, if you are a strategic buyer, now having to face financial buyers with deep pockets, sovereign wealth funds, and even what we call the new blues. These are new blue chip companies emerging out of Eastern Europe, Latin America, Asia, the Middle East. Companies that are world-class companies in their own right and that can buy and compete with the best of them in the merger world. And of course, this whole phenomenon of bubbles and waves. We talked about the bubbles in Japan, but we've gone through our own bubbles and waves in the M&A environment, and really thinking about how one distinguishes between a bubble and a wave, or even a bubble sitting on top of a wave, we think is an enduring challenge. So the question arises, in this environment, with all that's going on, the 5 trends that I've mentioned, plus the short-term trends with the economy and the credit markets, how does anybody put together a merger plan that makes sense? And we step back to how you put together a strategic growth, a renewal plan, a process that we think of as a Merganic process, that is bringing the merger, the organic, the alliances, the J&Vs all together into one integrated plan that is stitched together by focusing on acquiring capabilities. Growth is about acquiring capabilities, not market positions. So if you think about how you and I grow, it's the same as the way a business grows. You start in a job, you succeed, you're given a new job, you have to learn new things. Having learned new things, you can now go into a new job, and companies grow in exactly the same way. Starting in a market with a set of capabilities, they'll go into an adjacent market, they have to learn new capabilities, those new capabilities open up new markets, and that stepwise kind of growth you can see playing out in people who have succeeded over a long time. GE starting from light bulbs and P&G starting from candle wax. J&J has gone through a number of themes of these types of stepwise growth over time as well. This integrated roadmap, this Merganic roadmap, of course, sounds like a good idea. The question arises, how do you actually do this? There are a couple of things that we emphasize. Number one, it's a series of opportunities that are under a common theme, stitched together by real capabilities. And when I say connected by capabilities, the capabilities really need to confer a real economic or customer advantage. It's just not a group of things loosely under the same umbrella. So what I want to do is I need to get a theme, and I can let my mind be as creative as I want. In the current environment, you could think of the convergence of health and wealth. People's health, insurance, or lack thereof being one of the greatest threats to their long-term wealth in a defined benefits pension world, in a defined contribution benefits world, I should say. If you actually think about how one would pursue that theme, you'd put together a whole series of both financial and insurance products. They'd have to be linked with specific capabilities. And then you'd have to ask yourself, well, where am I going to get those capabilities, the one that I don't have? And that's where the Merganic comes in, because acquiring new capabilities is a choice. I can make them, I can buy them, or I can borrow them in alliances and licenses. And having that all together in one plan so that my R&D group, my marketing group, my corporate development group, and everybody's operating off the same roadmap, that's where the power of the Merganic planning comes through. So if you think about putting together one of these Merganic plans, it's a series of businesses, some of which are short-term, some are long-term. It's a series of capabilities. They're all together. And by the way, I can have as many of these themes or roadmaps as I want, because I might be watching to see trends in the market and see which play out over time and which paths I want to pursue. But it's a collaborative exercise. It's a new way of doing strategic and corporate planning. So I need the businesses involved in the short-term opportunities and what capabilities they're naturally going to build anyway to enhance their businesses. I need R&D and development and anybody who's thinking about the longer-term corporate planning involved, because that's where a lot of the themes come from, and thinking about these things in a thematic environment. And I need to get them together in the same room at some point. Each are going to build their own building blocks, but I want them together in the room so that I have one set of integrated roadmaps that they all buy into. It's an iterative exercise of starting bottoms up with the business units, asking how close to my goals, my growth goals or other goals, can they get, looking at the size of gap that remains, and then asking now how creative and far-reaching do I need to be to close that gap, and what kinds of themes might in fact do that.